Government is under pressure from organized labor the next 19 days as it says it is unable to interfere in the work of the Public Utility Regulatory Commission.
As much as government appreciates the concerns that have been raised by Ghanaians, the act that set up the PURC, that is the PURC Act 538 of 1997, bars government from interfering in the work of the PURC. Given this provision, it is difficult to see how government can direct the PURC in its work. What government can do, and it continues to do, is to subsidize the tariffs as announced by the Public Utilities and Regulatory Commission, I beg your pardon.
And the Public Utility Regulatory Commission says its announcement of tariff increase was in the best interest of utility companies and consumers, and it is unable to reduce the tariffs downwards.
We are saying that we have done what is in the interest of the investor, the utility service provider, and the consumer, and looking at the economic development of the country. Because looking back, we can say that we went through a load shedding period, and how much we spent on other alternative sources of energy didn't bring any economic development. But this is what PURC has done. For now, this is what the PURC has done to cover operations and maintenance for the utility service. The PURC as an independent regulator, we have done our work, we have done it according to the guidelines that has been set for us.
Meanwhile, organized labor is asking members to begin series of demonstrations and strikes with the view of pressurizing government to reduce tariff increases of 79.8% for electricity and 52% for water.
Technical Working Group's report, we have come to the conclusion that none of the scenarios presented in the report addresses the concerns of organized labor. And we want to say that none of the scenarios presented in the report addresses the concerns of organized labor. For example, the Technical Working Group's best possible scenario, which proposes 60% increase in the end user tariff for electricity, implies an effective increase of 76% as a result of the additional levies and charges. We therefore have no option but to call on all the working people of Ghana, their families and the good people of Ghana to express their dissatisfaction about the failure on the part of government and PURC to reduce the three tariffs to affordable.
My name is Bright Nananfo, and this is today's big story. Now, government finds itself in the middle of the fight by organized labor to get tariffs reduced. While it says it has no power to pressure the PRC to reduce tariffs, it faces a shutdown should organized labor carry out a threat to begin a series of demonstrations and strikes before and after November 18. Now, government says reducing the tariffs will mean most government projects will be affected as more monies will have to be paid to utility companies as subsidies.
The committee that looked into the matter, which was led by Dr. Abbey, indicated clearly the various scenarios and showed what the implications for the budget would be and also the financial viability of the utility service providers would be if government, also I beg your pardon, PURC, does the reduction that organized labor is asking for. For instance, if PURC should reduce the tariffs to 60% adjustment, as some stakeholders are requesting, it would mean that government has to cough up in excess of 207 million Ghana cedis to make up for the loss that will be incurred to buy the utility service providers. 207 million Ghana cedis. That's the amount of subsidy that is required to keep the level of adjustment at 60% and not at the current 79% that has been announced. This would have serious implications for government's ability to make critical expenditure, to meet critical expenditure items. You do know that the wage bill continues to rise. It's going to shoot to around 11 billion Ghana cedis by the end of this year. as we speak because of the upward adjustment in the salaries of public sector workers by 10%. There is a need also to do some back pay to cover the period of the negotiation. And if you have to cover up 207 million Ghana cedis to bring the level of adjustment to 60%, it could have implications for government's ability to meet even the need to resolve the issue of back pay for organized labor. Government is in the process of beginning the construction of the 200 senior high schools. And if you consider the fact that each of these schools is valued just a little over 1 million Ghana cedis or $1 million, you find that this is going to pose a challenge for government in meeting some of these expenditure items. So whilst government remains concerned about the situation, it is important that the financial viability of the utility service providers and also government's ability to meet certain critical expenditure items are factored in the debate.
And how will a shutdown affect government work, and how should government handle this? Now, what will be the impact on the economy? Is organized labor really bent on embarking on a strike and demonstrations or an attempt to twist government's hand to reduce tariff? Let's get some analysis from civil society as well as from academia. We'll also be speaking to organized labor. First of all, let me go to the Ghana Federation of Labor. Mr. Abraham Kumsin is the Secretary General. Mr. Kumsin, thanks so much for your time. Now, November 18 deadline. Now, is organized labor really bent on embarking on demonstrations and strikes?
You see, organized labor, I think that people are misusing this organized labor thing. Organized labor is it TUC and some other. We have more than 80 registered trade unions in this country.
Right.
So I don't know how many of them met to commit organized labor to this action. And you know the position of our organization already.
Mm.
We do not have the capacity now to go on a nationwide strike. We've said it. If they have their right to go on strike, even one person can go on strike, demonstration or whatever. It's up to the person. But we have not prepared our minds and strategized as to how we're going to sustain it. If it is one day, what impact is it going to have? So not on the general economy, but at where we work as you know, workers belonging to the private sector. So that is the issue. Maybe when the time comes, multi-TV, we are all not going to work. So have you prepared your mind for it?
So you're talking about a divided front of the organized labor. That's what you're talking about.
You see, we are even in, I don't want to go there, but I think that this organized labor definition, sooner or later, will be clear. Because I wish that the people who met to take that decision will identify themselves as such. That you see, not this and that. But if they say organized labor, we want to bundle everybody. We are not children. We have been in this game long before some of them even emerged as leaders. And we cannot be stampeded to be part of this kind of, action. We are not part of it. We are still discussing, but we have to convince our people. Today we had some, short meeting, and we are going to continue even up to next week, Tuesday, just to see how we're going to, position ourselves. But what I can say now is that we have not, exhausted consultation with our members as to their involvement or participation in whatever strike or demonstration or this thing. Already, our sector is distressed.
Mm.
Our sector is distressed, and we are dealing with these issues, And so, if we are taking this, that's why I've said that this is a political strike, and political strike has some implications. It is not a grievance. It is not occupational. It is not industrial relations thing that we are doing now. You see, and when we are dealing with a policy, political strike has to do with a bad policy of government that could undermine the mass of the people, not only workers, That is where workers' unions can, together with civil society organizations, take such action, which is political. You understand?
Right.
And we haven't gotten there. Because, look, the PUIC, government is not PUIC. PUIC was established by law. And PUIC makes provision for participation of workers. Then, the manufacturers, AGI is there. Then we have a place for domestic consumers. So these three people have identical interests. So that if you are with this commission, what did they say?
Right.
Before they came to that conclusion of raising these tariffs so high, like what did they say? Did they see anything wrong with it? All they were saying is, all they are saying is that it should be staggered. They are not disputing the levels that we have reached, except that they want these higher increases to be staggered, as they say, to be spread over a period of time.
Right. Mr. Akomse, wrap up for me. Now, it means that your federation will not be part of the strikes and demonstrations before and after November 18.
We haven't taken that decision yet. That's why I told you. Today we started meeting. Tomorrow we'll continue.
Thank you
Friday
so much.
We'll continue.
Thank you so much for speaking to Mr. Abraham Kumsin, is the Secretary General of the Ghana Federation of Labour. Let me now pick some thought from civil society. Mr. Ishmael Ejukumihene is with the Kumasi Institute of Technology, and he's just joining me on phone. Mr. Ejukumihene, thanks so much for your time.
You're welcome, Brian.
Right. Now, first of all, let's look at this whole thing. Now, government says it cannot interfere in the work of the PURC. The PURC says, I can't reduce the tariffs downwards. Organized labor says, government reduce the tariffs or we're embarking on strikes, demonstrations before and after November 18. Government finds itself in a very, very dangerous, if I should put it, situation. How can this be handled?
Well, right. I think it's a complex situation. It is a complex situation, and we've complicated it because of, let's say, historical antecedents. And yes, it's true that PURC was set up as an independent organized institute, agency of government. But it's also not true. Government cannot say that it has never interfered in the work of PURC. In fact, when PURC was formed, the very first time PURC was formed in 1997, the first tariff reviews that they made in 1998 occasioned a very huge nationwide strike that led to the suspension of the tariffs by government. Okay? And since then, government has always intervened. There are times that tariffs have been announced, government says that we will absorb the increases.
Right.
So we need to understand that government is a big stakeholder when it comes to the work of PURC, and they have always intervened. I think the truth that is staring all of us in our face now is that it's no longer sustainable. I mean, we know the state of the economy, and we know that the government has taken a very clear decision not to be subsidizing electricity, not to be subsidizing water. So let's try and understand that that's where we are today. So the bottom line is, if government is not ready to pick the difference between what is perceived to be the economic tariff and what the people are paying now, who pays that difference? And for me, that's the question that we need to answer. Whether it's organized labor, whether it's activists or advocates who are doing that, let's try and understand. The truth, yeah.
The organized labor says that this simply cannot pay, and so government will need to come back again with new tariffs.
Well, if the government has the money, that's what they've been doing in the past. And in fact, in the past, the government had accepted to pay when it actually didn't pay. So there was debt that the utilities were not being able to recover. So that's the truth. There are times that the government has said, okay, we're going to absorb, let's say, X% of the increment, and that we're going to pay the money back. The monies are always not being paid. So the bottom line is that, yes, nobody's saying that organized labor should be able to pay. That's not what I'm saying. what I would like to say is that we really, as a country, need to come to the point where we try to understand that if something has to give, if we don't pay what we need to pay, it comes back to hunters.
Right.
I don't know who is to pay, but if indeed what the utilities were asking for, they only get a fraction of that from what PURC is telling us, then it means that there's even still a gap to be filled. What I don't understand is, for example, the reason for such huge discrepancy between what the utilities want and what the PURC is giving them. Because, you see, already we are being told that the money that has been given to them wouldn't be able to solve their problem. So what it means is that they can turn around to tell us that we didn't get all that we need, so the quality of service thing is never going to be fixed because what we needed to be able to do that, we never got it. Why is it so much? Is there so much a difference between what the utilities see as the economic tariffs and what the PURC is giving to them?
Right.
That has to be laid in the open. PURC need to tell us what went into their determination so that nobody can come back and tell us that we got the increases, but we're not able to do what we're supposed to do.
All right, hold the line for me. Don't drop it. Let me go to the Flagstaff House, the seat of government, and speak to presidential staffer, Dr. Clement Park. Now, Dr. Park, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much for giving me the chance to be part of your program.
Right. I can imagine the kind of heat, the kind of pressure that the Flagstaff House is absorbing now. Organized labor threatening to embark on strikes and demonstrations. A government says it cannot interfere in the work of PRC. PRC says, I can't reduce the tariffs. Is that the pressure you're absorbing now?
Well, I think your assessment of the situation is right on point, and I think that all Ghanaians would agree that indeed the president has done his best to try and look at options in terms of what can be feasible within the context of ensuring that whilst we examine how we can sort of cushion the people in terms of these increases in tariffs, we also do not do anything that would cause the utility companies to become insolvent, because the consequences are very dire. I mean, you can imagine if, for example, we wake up tomorrow and we have no light, the water is not running, you can imagine the burden that is going to place on the people. And indeed, government had no choice but to call for a serious independent study of the situation by stakeholders, where the TUC and other stakeholders, including the Association of Ghana Industries, were all participants. And therefore, if they have come out with a report indicating that even if the PURC considered a reduction to 60%, that would cause the government have to make up a budgetary shortfall in excess of 200 million Ghana cedis. You know, that is no small amount, particularly at a time when we are feeling all of the economic pressures. So It's a very difficult situation, and it is the hope of government that organized labor would sympathize with the rest of the nation and understand the very difficult options available and rescind their decision, and let's forge ahead and then do what is best in the national interest. But I think we must also respect PURC's position. This is a constitutional body which is mandated to dispense its responsibilities, and it is not fair to expect that government should be able to step in and, if you like, undo what a well-constituted constitutional body has come up with based on very realistic assessment of practical situations that we all face as a nation.
Right. Dr. Park, how would you react to the fact that there are concerns that, of course, what is happening has happened before? Governments have in the past stepped in when PRC had increased tariffs. Governments have come in to absorb the differences. In some cases, government have actually asked the PRC to reduce tariffs. And so there's some precedent is there. That is why what is happening. How would you react to that?
Well, yes, it is a true statement, but that is part of the problem. And we live in new times. We have new realities. I mean, when that was happening, of course, we didn't have a deficit to the extent that we do. Our, debt to GDP ratio was not almost 50%. And of course, the wage bill had not ballooned to the extent that we are spending close to 70% of the income that we generate as a nation to pay those who are in the public sector. So the dynamics have changed, and it is about time that we become realistic in doing what we know is right and to move away from doing what has tended to be based on political expediency. So, this is the new beginning, and we must wake up and smell the coffee. This is going on in every other part of the world, and we are no exception. So we are only asking Labour to be much more realistic in accepting that the conditions are such that it is almost impossible for government to do anything outside of what the PURC has proposed, keeping in mind that the demands that were being made by the utilities were even above and beyond the close to 80%. Which was announced quite recently.
Can you confirm this? Information trickling into Joy News is indicating that national security is meeting organized labor to try and look at how to fix this problem. Apart from that, how closer is government trying to get to organized labor to resolve this impasse?
Well, as far as I am concerned, government has always maintained an open door policy. And if you remember, even the technical working group, which was convened under the leadership of Dr. Joe Abe, was under the, it came about at the instigation of His Excellency the Vice President, Mr. Arthur. And indeed, the Chief of Staff was also very active. So it shouldn't be surprising that the National Security Coordinator would be engaging with Labour, because at the end of the day, we need to have peace and stability to be able to achieve and even to work on the common challenges that we all recognize we are facing today. So, of course, as a responsible government, you can expect higher government officials to do everything that they can to try and persuade Labour to understand the very difficult decisions that have to be made in the short term, so that in the medium to long term, we would all begin to see the benefits that would accrue to all of us.
Wrap up for me. November 18, do you see a resolution to this, or you anticipating organized labor hitting the streets?
Well, I think that we will not get to that point. But I think that it is now the responsibility of we, the people, the individual members who constitute the different labor organizations, to try and impress on our leadership in labor to understand the difficult times that we are all facing, and to allow for the system to work itself out. Because labor in itself is not saying that it is opposed to the increment. Labor's argument is that the sudden expectation to bear the rise from where it was to the current levels is rather too steep. But be as it may, we know that this has already come into effect, and it is already playing out in the system. So, by maintaining the status quo, it is not going to dramatically cause us any more harm than it already has. So why do we want to perhaps cause some type of destabilization of our nation and our system by embarking on a strike action, when we know that ultimately that is going to be harmful to the well-being of our state and our nation?
Thank you so much for speaking to me. Dr. Clement Park is a presidential staffer there, talking to me on the organized labor's decision to embark on strikes and demonstrations before and after November 18. Ishmael Ejikumhine is all on the line. Now, Ishmael, let's begin to wrap up this conversation. Now, it looks like the ordinary Ghanaian seem to be putting his or her faith in organized labor. Perhaps it has depended on government, and it has not seen that kind of dividend, that result. And so it is turning to organized labor to get results. Is that how you see it?
Well, it appears so, but again, I'm not too sure the extent to which organized labor will be able to sustain whatever they are threatening to do on the 18th of November. I honestly think that we've gotten to a point where some of these decisions will have to be taken And if we are not careful, the decisions we take today will come back to haunt us. You see, we've been playing this game since 1998, and this is part of the reason why we are where we are today. The bottom line, I always say, the bottom line really is that when you go and buy any good or service, and you are not able to recover the cost, ultimately your business will collapse.
Right.
There are inefficiencies, but we need to address that. I'm not sure whether the organized labor even has the staying power to continue to. But let's say that they're going to push and push and push. I get the feeling from government that, and in fact that's the stance they're taking, that they can't do much about it. And I think they are under so much pressure, not even from the current situation, but also from the World Bank and all our development partners who are saying that, look, stay out of this business. And not until government is able to be sure that they are able to find some money, I don't think this is going to yield any fruit.
Let's begin to wrap up. So you are sure that the way government says that it is speaking to organized labor, as confirmed by the presidential staff, the National Security Coordinator is trying to meet organized labor to fix this problem. The way it is being handled, is that the way to go? Let's wrap up.
Well, I mean, it's government's words against organized labor. The other day, the organized labor suspended what they wanted to do, and they said they were giving the government the benefit of the doubt, and now we have this threat. I think it's important that everybody understands that perhaps we can arrive at a solution without necessarily having to resort to that. But it depends on how organized labor becomes convinced that their grievances are going to be addressed whichever way possible. I honestly think that it's a very difficult situation. There has to be compromises, but who finally agrees to compromise is the issue now.
Thank you so much for speaking to me. Ishmael Ejikumihini is the director of the Kumasi Institute for Technology there, talking about organized labor and government tussle. And of course, that's what is happening. Government says it is unable, or it cannot, or it should not interfere in the work of the PURC. The PURC says I cannot reduce the tariffs downwards because it will affect the operations of utility providers. While organized labor says government will need to reduce the tariffs before November 18, or it will embark on strikes and demonstrations. Meanwhile, a section of organized labor thinks that no, this is not the way to go. We'll have more on this very particular issue later on News at 8, but this is the first part of the show. Today's big story coming to an end. We're getting you the second part, the interactive segment that allows you to get to us, and we'll get you. Lady Marianne is joining me in a minute. This is today's big story. Welcome back to today's big story, and of course we'll continue the second part, and we're also talking about utilities. We're talking about water, but Marianne has just joined me, and there's a lot of talk about this organized labor's threat to go on strike. Are you ready to go on strike on 18? Or you won't join the strike?
You see, I'd love to go on strike.
Oh, okay.
So I can get a break, but I can't go on strike.
Can't go.
No, I can't.
Oh, right. We're also talking utilities on Interactive.
We are talking utilities on Interactive, but we're talking about utilities in a very different way.
Right.
Because government has now decided to cut, the utilities that it pays to public institutions, and it's going to affect hospitals as well as, the assisted senior secondary schools. And so what they are saying now is that the parents of the wards would have to foot their children.
So we're going to pay more?
Parents are going to pay more, yes.
You're
paying already, but now you have to pay more. So they're preparing you and telling you that, please.
We need to start asking for salary increment.
We do. So perhaps we should go on that strike.
Welcome once again to the show.
Thank you so much. Welcome to JN Interactive. My name is Marianne Toure. baby. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is JN Interactive within today's big story, and we're talking about utilities. Parents would have to pay more tuition for the awards in secondary schools because the government says it is cutting back on the subsidies it pays for the utilities to these schools. And so, hey, if you're a parent, get ready because you're still going to be paying more and more and more. If you're just joining us, I'd like to announce all the social media tools you need to get in touch with this show. If you're on Facebook, we are at facebook.com/joinnews-on-TV. Like our page, we have so many posts there, comment on them, and we share every comment that you send us with the rest of the world. We are on Twitter, by the way, and we tweet at Join News on TV. Remember to use the hashtag JNInteractiveGH so that we'll be able to sort all your comments in one and take them all at a go. I am on Twitter also, and I tweet at MN Ture. If you're sending us an email, please use Joy News IM at multitvworld.com. If you're sending us a WhatsApp, please send it to 0260 518 801. So JN Interactive, as we say, is where tech meets news to set the agenda. So you're talking about it, and we are also talking about it because, after all, that is what we do here. And Joy News has intercepted a letter from the Ghana Water Company saying that government will no longer pay the utility bills of ministries, departments and the agencies. And the directive, which was given in January this year, will take retrospective effect when implemented. However, the president of CHAS, who is Samuel Ofori-Eji, has told Joy News they will have to pass on the payment of the utilities to parents. And this is a direct quote from him. He says there will be a slight increase in the fees the parents pay every term. So it means that every term when your ward goes to school and comes back, whatever bill they bring would have gone up. And Mr. Ofori, that's what he said. So CHAS, in case you do know who they are the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools, and that is what they are saying, that parents be prepared to pick up the cost of utilities of your wards because government has withdrawn subsidies for senior high schools. And this show is all about you. It's about what you're talking about, and our cameras have gone round and caught up with a few of you, and we are asking you, what do you think about this? We'll take our first video blog.
I think it's in the right direction because the government can use some of those monies to finance some of these schools in the villages who sit under trees to study and a whole lot. So since they are going to pay, because for my school like this, we always pay because we have prepaid meters in my school, which is good. But my only problem is, what if the monies are going to go through the right channels? That's my only problem, because in this country that of ours, many things are happening. If only the money is going to go through the right channels, I think it's a good initiative, so I support it.
Well, I think the government should continue and pay for them, because when the government stops paying for them, it's going to affect their income at the end and their family.
The government should continue paying it because it will help people be strong and work harder and harder to gain a lot of income into the country.
In fact, if they cancel that issue, I think it's not good. They have to do something about it because the families we are suffering about this thing. Because that small thing they give to the children help our family. Those people are paying the school fees and those things. So I don't think that it's very fair to cancel that issue.
So that is what most of you are thinking about it. We have a post on social media on our Facebook page. I'll try and see if I can take a few of it before we go and take our next video blog. And so many comments have come in already. 61 comments. It's fantastic that you are actually getting in touch with us, because after all, the show it's about you. It's about what you are saying, what you're thinking about, so we amplify it and then share it with the rest of the world. So government has decided to cut the payment of utilities to all public institutions, including public schools, hospitals and security agencies. So CHAS, which is a conference of heads of assisted secondary schools, say parents should be prepared to pick up the cost of utilities of their wards as government withdraws subsidy for high schools. Is this the way forward? And Philip says, indeed, this NDC government is not performing well at all. They've hiked admission fees. They also want to pay utility bills for our wards. Ghana Nawa. God, please help us. Rich Morrison says, where's Ghana going to? Frimpong Holy John says, the government should think about the parents and their wards. The government must contract these parents to see the high amounts of school fees they are paying. God have mercy upon Ghana. Roland Yabo, fine boy. I think it's better, as the saying goes, half a loaf is better than none. So as a good way, when that is done, at least it will also go a long way to help in a smooth production of utilities. Kinsley says, trouble in Jidaland. Nuete Opata, I got to leave. I wonder where you're going. Do you have your passport ready? Perhaps if you're going, this is the time to go. If the kitchen is too hot, get out of it. That's what he said. Alom says, my thumb is power. Of course, when the time is due, you can actually get the government out and get a new one in if you think he's not doing what he ought to do. Austin says, mums and dads are dead. The government should reconsider. Seth Nana Osenyako says, oh my God, we should prepare to cry for worse. Dakwa Tufo says, indeed, better Ghana for you. Raymond King, nothing bad at all. Ghana equals God has blessed Nkrumah already. And then Austin again, Ghana is turning to earth hell. God bless Ghana. Christian Salvo, hey Ghana, I am very sad today. What the government is saying is a terrible news to hear. I think that is going to affect parents whom are taking care of their wards in SHS, and this is unacceptable in today's Ghana. Osajefo Yao says, let's have fun, Ghana. This is a mechanic government run by a gang of cartel criminals and wreckers. Wow, that is very harsh, but that is your opinion, and I give it to you. We'll go and take our next video blog. And the students themselves, we caught up with a few students who are sharing what they're thinking about this new thing with us. Let's take our next video blog.
For the students, no, I think the schools should be the ones to pay. You know, like, it should be like a money set aside, you know, for the schools to use to pay. But students paying personally, I don't think it's the right thing, because we're already struggling with our fees and books and stuff. So we paying our fees and paying this one too, I think it's too much. So the schools should set aside funds in order to pay for that utility that the government wants them to pay for.
It will affect the students, because when I'm a student, I'm learning at 5 and lights goes off. I'll go and sleep, and my academic will also be going further down.
I think it's going to affect parents because they have to, that is, put in more.
So that is what some students have been saying. We'll go and take more of your comments that have been coming in on Facebook. Isa says, students and staff members misuse our electricity, so the government has done the right thing. Some teachers do extend this electricity to some houses which are not part of the institution, so government is right for such a move. So I get what you're trying to say, that if they're using government money for their own purposes, then they ought to pay for it. Okay. Togbe Charles says, it's obvious this move is aimed towards improving the quality of education in our country, and we must all be for it. As it is, these monies can go into something else. And of course, you're right. Anthony says it's not easy, as simple as that for you. Samuel barima.asare says, in fact, the normal Ghana was far better than this current so-called better Ghana. I have been in light out ever since morning. Why? Yes, ECG, why? I wonder which area you are. Perhaps we could have spoken to them for you. So you can send another comment and tell me exactly where you are. But ECG, if you're listening, Samuel says he's no lights since morning. So please do something about it for him. Roland says, you know what, you all should worry. It will soon be contested in 2016. So Ghanaians, this should be your last chance to vote for me, including you, Mariam, so that when I become the president, I will appoint many females in my regime since they are not that wicked. Roland, thank you so much. I guess I have another job to look forward to, the next minister of something in your presidency. Thank you so much for considering me. Kweku says, hey, KK, that's what you're trying to say. Frimpong Holly Jones says Ghanaians rejected free education and they are now paying the price for it. It's unfortunate we're still at first gear, and after 1 year, they are weakening the engine of Ghana's economy. Osaje Fuyaw again is talking to Christian Salvo that the same parents voted for them, so let them dance to the tune they composed in December 7 and 8 respectively. I'll take a few more comments and then we'll go and take a final video blog. Lady Ann, this is nonsense. Why has this government decided to do only things that will give parents heartache and hypertension like that? I always try as much as possible to stay off politics, but I just can't. What form of okay, so they're planning to cut subsidies to these important institutions of the country. Why the politicians enjoy free utilities and fuel, right? You're asking. And when will they stop free SHS in the 3 northern regions too? Is the North now paying utilities? Will the Flagstaff House start paying utilities too? Wow, you're asking all the real questions. This 3 part, I can't read it. I'm not getting it, so I'll skip it. Kweku Opari says poor management of the economy headed by skyrocketing corruption, insensitivity at its best. The president should spearhead by paying utility bills and donate all his allowances to the leprosarium and the mental hospitals. That definitely would be a very, very good one there. And you've also been speaking to us again in our next video blog about these subsidies. So we'll go and then take it. We'll come back and take some more of your comments.
At the hospital, they are operating someone and the lights go off. I mean, it will cause harm to the state of Ghana. So the government should go on and pay for them.
The hospital, a lot of people will die within some few months, and the taxes they will pay will reduce. So I think government should continue paying.
Yeah, I think the government should consider the hospitals, because sometimes, like, the sick person doesn't have enough money. What about those who don't have enough? They cannot pay their own sick bills. How about paying utility bills as well? So I think that the government should consider the hospitals. Yeah.
And so the last video blog was about the effects of this on the hospitals, and you'll be sharing your views. You're thinking that perhaps government should do that for the schools and other government institutions, the ministries, but not to the hospitals. We were thinking that government should continue subsidizing the utilities for the hospitals, and we'll take some more of your comments that have been coming through to us on Facebook. Sheikh Saka Sharif says, compounding the problem of guardians, it's absolutely the path to you say trod at this point in time. Paying more to the already gargantuan monies, not good at all. Roland says, I like the Better Ghana. For all that's good, they should also pay for tariffs, especially the security, since they also take bribes from people. It's nothing new. Newton Jeffer says, I know parents will pay because they were promised free SHS, but they prefer Idebi Keke. Bernard Kobner says, President Mahama is totally confused. Frederick Ado, for quality education, nothing is for free. When it's coming, it is doing. I laugh, and yeah, it is coming and doing, of course. Ambrose says, it's an indirect way of telling us that we Ghanaians will continue to suffer under this government. No wonder they are there illegitimately, and I don't support you here. The 9 justices had their say, and President Mahama is the legitimate president of this country, whether you like it or not. It has been stated in the court of law. And so we're moving on from there. Simon says, I don't think so. Putting the burden on parents, some of whom may not be able to afford it, is definitely not the way to go. They should come again. Austin says parent salaries are now used for paying school tariffs. Garnet's son says, so our kids, elderly, sick, and those who keep us safe are the ones our government is making pay the price for its inefficiencies and mismanagement of our economy. Why should the most fragile and vulnerable in our society have to pay the price whilst our government increases its size and spending? I guess it is clear that our government is now out of touch. It's lost touch with us, the people. This is not the way. This is not what we expected. This policy is insensitive, and the Ghanaian people must not stand for it. We can do better, and we deserve better. Abdul Razak, this will be too bad for parents who cannot even afford to pay their wards' school fees. Spencer Yakumi Kingsford, from 1992 till date, this is the bad government so far. We all should wait for the MPP. Still, the battle is the Lord's. Emmanuel saying it's not easy, but what I like about Mahama is he's a straightforward person. Francis says this government is very insensitive to the plight of parents and their wards. Yakumi again says we made a big mistake. God forgive us. Ja says this is absolutely nonsense, and you go in a very long one. Christian Salvo, whom I have to be a president of this country, and I'm sure you'll be doing something fabulous for us. Elvis Obing Boatin says better Ghana agenda. Samson Opele, where is the NDC government taking the nation to? Even whilst there are no utility bills, our parents sweat down under their pants before paying our fees. So the government should think twice. Assembly. Darius Treme will be my last comment for the day. God forgive me for voting for this man. In fact, I'm ashamed of myself. What a shock for that last comment. That's all I can say. And thank you so much for joining me with all your comments. After all, this show is nothing without your comments. Nana Bright joins me so we can wrap up
and of
together.
course, a lot more of your comments will be read later on the other segment. Let's tell you some more stories to come later on at 8. And Parliament, or the Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Edward Do Ajaho, has threatened to take action against ministers who fail to answer its sermons. He was reacting to the failure of the finance ministers who appear before the House to assist in the amendment of the VAT 2013 bill.
And also to come in news at 8, the Winneba Government Hospital is making an appeal for the general public, private organizations and government to come to their aid with medical supplies. This was after fire gutted its storehouse, destroying the entire stock in the process.
So Israel I will come away at 8 o'clock with more of these stories. But for now, we're wrapping up for the show. We have Joy News Exclusive coming up right over here. My name is Bright Nana Amfo.
And I am Marian Toure. Have a good evening.